Morning. Coffee sermon. 23 September 25. A few things. Number one, Judah isn't Levi and Levi isn't Judah. Number two, he says as he adjusts his defrost, one-handed. Spiritual warfare. So, I'll tie it all together for you. Yesterday, Feast of Yom Teruah, Festival of Trumpets. We blow shofars, trumpets, to announce the coming of the King. Revelation 19, and that the bridegroom, Messiah, is returning for his bride, which most would translate as the church, which would be an inaccurate, underhanded translation. The New Testament word used, I believe, 78 times in Koine Greek is ekklesia, which means the body. So if you were to say, if you somehow got transported back in time 2,000 years and said, we are going to church, those believers that you were conversing with would be very confused, because they understood that the body, the ekklesia, the church, is a group of people, not a place. Sounds very familiar to the concept of Israel as a group of people, not a place. So, the bridegroom is coming for his bride, the body, and the two shall become one flesh, the body. And so we blow trumpets and shofars, and the shut up, dispatch. The prescription for Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, which people say, well, that's Jewish stuff. No, it's biblical. Remember that Judah is only one of the sons of Jacob, later renamed Israel, Genesis 32. He who struggles with Elohim, he who overcomes with Elohim, and he who rules with Elohim. How do we overcome? By the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So Messiah is literally in the middle of the definition of Israel. Okay? So there's biblical stuff and there's Jewish stuff. Which brings me to Judah isn't Levi. So yesterday, Yom Teruah, or is it today in Israel? Who knows? I don't care. But Bear, what calendar are you on? Look at the moon. Okay? Read Genesis, chapter 1. Then look at the moon. Well, is it dark of the moon or is it sliver? Is it... Shut up. Shut up. Let's create even more division amongst the body, the ecclesia, by arguing over useless factoids. Who cares? I don't care, as you may have been able to note by my tone and my words. It's utter retardation. Mountains and molehills. So there was a lot of talk of Israel, the nation state of, the religious leadership there is going to get together and blow 100 shofars, and they're going to usher in Armageddon, because on Yom Teruah, that's what it means when these trumpets blow, that they're going to usher in Armageddon. They're calling for the coming of Messiah, and that's going to begin end times. See, that only works on people that have no biblical area familiarity. We, the body, are commanded to do this every year on the first day of the new moon in the 7th month. Not your Julian calendar 7th month, but the 7th month of... Hold on, I gotta turn this dispatch down. They're busy this morning. So, in any event, Israel's gonna blow 100 shofars. Cool. Well, there were tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of shofars that were blown yesterday. There was 100 blown where I was at yesterday, which is saying something. Nobody was like, Bear's gonna blow 100 shofars, it's the Armageddon. And you'll get the dispensationalists that'll say, well, you don't have to do that anymore. It was nailed to the cross. No, go read Colossians chapter 2, all of it. All of it. But I was taught that it was done away with. You were taught wrong. Why? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The working of lawlessness is the working of Satan. Yeah, that's what Paul said after the death, burial, and resurrection of Messiah. Oof, yeah. So, here's the thing. The Israelis, not Israelites, the Israelis that blew 100 shofars yesterday are of what persuasion? The Yehudim, the Jews. Okay. I'm not impressed. Why are you not impressed, Mr. Bear? It's very simple. There's a command in the Torah. Now, when I say Torah, I mean the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Not what the Jews mean when they say Torah, meaning the entirety of the old writings, as well as, nope, we're doing it, as well as the, so we're basically talking Talmud. The Mishnah and the Zohar and the Kabbalah and the commentaries, as well as any question from a wise yeshiva student, blah, blah, none of that. But Deuteronomy 4 verse 2, do not add to or take away from the word of this law. Okay, well, they've absolutely added to it, and dispensational Christendom has taken away from it. Well, neither are allowable, Old Testament and New. We're not allowed to do that. So, in the Torah, there's a command, do not diminish the inheritance of a brother. Okay. Sounds easy enough. Now, if you know your Bible, if you have biblical area familiarity, you'll know that there was a guy named Jacob. He was descended from a guy named Isaac. He was descended from a guy named Abraham. Okay? So Jacob, his granddaddy was Abraham. And Jacob had 12 sons. He was later renamed Israel after he wrestles with God. And the 12 sons of Israel become the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, Jacob's firstborn was a guy named Reuben. And Reuben slept with his daddy's concubine. He did not exhibit conduct, becoming a man of Elohim. And so when it's time to issue the blessings to his children, to his sons, Jacob skips over Reuben because Reuben doesn't know how to behave. Now, typically the firstborn would get a triune, threefold blessing. And that would be the kingship, the priesthood, and a double portion. Israel, having so many sons and having already skipped over his firstborn son for conduct on becoming a man of Elohim, breaks this threefold blessing into 3 blessings. The kingship goes to Judah. The priesthood goes to Levi, if you're Jewish. And the double blessing goes to Ephraim and Manasseh, the 2 sons, Jacob's grandsons, the 2 sons of Joseph. So what does that mean? What that means is that Judah gets the kingship, as evidenced by David, Solomon, Messiah, Matthew chapter 1. But Levi gets the priesthood. Judah's not Levi, and Levi's not Judah, and they've never been, and they're never gonna be. So until there's 100 Levites blowing the trumpet, I don't care. Now, the Yehudim, the house of Judah, when the northern tribes split away after later in Solomon's reign, and so forth and so on, you get Samaria, Shomeron becomes the capital. That's where Ahab is at. That's where Elijah and Elisha are stirring trouble on behalf of the Most High. The northern kingdoms, the 10 northern tribes, becomes referred to as the house of Israel. And they go into the diaspora. They're scattered by the Assyrians. The Assyrians are replaced by the Babylonians, who take over the land warfare conquest that the Assyrians were on and continue where the Assyrians left off, continue working their way south into Judea, where the house of Judah is at, which is Judah, Benjamin, and a portion of the Levites. Okay? Well, they go into the Babylonian captivity. The Medo-Persian Empire replaces the Babylonians. King Cyrus says, hey, why don't you guys go home again? He issues a decree. That's where we get Ezra and Nehemiah, and or Nehemiah if you're super white. And they return to the land. They begin rebuilding the second temple, later referred to as Herod's temple. It was not Herod's temple. It was a temple to the Most High. They begin building the second temple between 521 and 516 BC, with the dedication of the temple taking place at the Feast of Trumpets 516 BC. Okay. So, during that time, the house of Judah, when they come back from exile, claims to have adopted the tribe of Levi, and therefore they now have rights, the Levitical rights to the inheritance of Levi. That's not how it works. God said, you're not allowed to diminish your brother's inheritance. You can't just adopt his purview, okay? And yet the Yehudim have done that. Now, Rabbinic Judaism today proudly traces its roots back to Pharisaic Judaism during the time of Messiah. But the roots of Pharisaic Judaism we can find in the book of Malachi. Malachi, there's nobody ever named Malachi. It's not a name, it's a title. It means messenger of Yahweh. Probably written, most likely written by Ezra the scribe. Ezra the scribe was not a Jew. He was a Levite. He was of the tribe of Levi. He is descended from the last high priest in the first temple period, Sariah. So he's in the line of Aaron, Ezra was. Ezra was running people back and forth from first Babylonian and then Medo-Persian captivity back to the promised land, Canaan, not called Israel because Israel is people, back to Canaan, the promised land, and into Judea, near and around and into Jerusalem. And so he was moving people across the land, the exiles from now the Medo-Persian Empire, later the Persian Empire, into Jerusalem. And in, 457 BC, he comes back to Jerusalem, and now is an old man, after the temple has been rebuilt, rededicated, and he sees the Yehudim performing the rites of the Levite, and half-assing it while they're doing it. And he is pissed. And that's the context in which the book of Malachi is written. And basically, he says, you, Yehudim, have usurped the authority of the Levites. And because of that, the Father no longer regards your offerings. He no longer hears your prayers. He doesn't want to listen to your weeping. Now, this is the last book of prophecy in the Old Testament, 457 BC. Somewhere around 30 AD, we get John the Baptist, Yochanan the Immerser, who comes on the scene and begins to prophesy again. So for 450 to 500 years, the voice of prophecy was dead in the promised land due to the disobedience of the Yehudim, because they have taken their brother's inheritance. Literally. Judah and Levi were brothers, are brothers. Judah has a very specific job. Levi has a very specific job. And Judah's not Levi. So until Levites blow trumpets and Levites sacrifice a red heifer, I don't care. I'm unimpressed. All of which brings us into spiritual warfare. The only power that the Yehudim have from a spiritual standpoint to conduct themselves as air quote priests, which they are not biblically, is the power that we give them. That's it. It's the only power that it has. And there's a lot of pseudo-spiritual channels out there that bring up things like this as if the Jews are gonna sacrifice a red heifer and it's gonna begin the end of the world as we know it. No, it's not. No, it's not. You don't have enough biblical area familiarity to make that claim. They're the wrong people. They can't. Which brings up, well, where are the Levites? Revelation chapter 7, 12,000 of them sealed in the forehead. For what? for Levite stuff and service to the temple. So, spiritual warfare. Bear, do you really believe all this stuff? Yes, I really do. I really do. And just because I don't understand all of it doesn't mean I can't believe it. Because if I could understand all of Elohim, I would be God and he would not be. I prefer to serve a creator that I cannot fully comprehend, because that keeps me fully aware of who outranks who in this relationship. Spiritual warfare, demons, angels, unclean spirits, all of that. There's a parallel here between the Yehudim and Levi and spiritual warfare, angels and unclean spirits and demons and all of that. There's a lot of people that believe that Satan, who does have purview over the world for a time, somehow has as much or almost as much power as Messiah. That's blasphemy, because Jesus is God, okay? And you're talking about something that is created, Hasatan, Satan, the Nahash, the enemy, the adversary, versus the creator. So the creator outranks the created infinitely. Well, why does Satan have purview? Because he serves a function, a forcing function here on earth in this time. See, he's translated now as the enemy, but the earliest translations had him as the accuser. So the function that he serves is to tempt and to point out the shortcomings, which make it absolutely a requirement to have the covering of the blood of the Lamb. Which, what does that mean? I'm covered by the blood of the Lamb. It's Pesach, it's Passover, it's Exodus chapter 12. Yeah. So, there's a necessary function that the accuser fulfills on behalf of the Most High to make us aware of our shortcomings, to where we desperately need Christ and we cannot function without him. Now, to say that, and lots of people say, well, the Jews are Satanists. No, they got in trouble for Baal worship. Baal's not Satan. Don't be retarded. To the extent that maybe, and also, people groups are not homogenous. There's plenty of Jews that are not bad people, okay? That are actually good people. I'm friends with some of them. But to the extent that one worships Baal, how that could be considered Satanist would be from the standpoint of, say, Anton Zander LaVey Satanism, which is do what you will. You do whatever you want to do because none of it matters anyway. Well, I disagree with that. And how did it end for Mr. LaVey? Not great. So, this idea that Satan is almost as powerful as God is blasphemy. That's not true at all. And these demons and these unclean spirits only have the power that you give them. They're psychic vampires. They feed off of your energy. And so whatever energy you give them, that's what they're operating on. You tell them to go away. I rebuke you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus the Christ. Flee from me. Now, if your words are empty, they will leave. And they'll come back to find the house swept and bring 7 friends with them. Messiah talks about this. But if your words are forceful and true, meaning that you turn it off on the inside too, you stop giving attention and energy to all these things. They have no bearing on your life whatsoever. Messiah outranks demons infinitely. That's why they tremble at his name, James chapter 3. And if the demons tremble at his name, but you do not, the demons have a more firm belief in who Messiah is than you do. Oof, I know. So don't give your energy, don't give your attention, don't give your intent to things that are unclean, to things that are demonic, and then they have no hold over you. But what if they taunt me and they come to me in the middle of the night and tell them to go away? Simple as that. You are not allowed to be here. Do not. Dude, if I have to tell my daddy about what you're doing, he's going to destroy you. Flee while you can. Okay? So Judah isn't Levi. Never going to be. And until Levi shows up, I'm unconcerned. And when it comes to spiritual warfare, remember who the Creator is. And we serve Him, we fear Him. Everything else, it's not that it's make-believe, but it has no power. The only power it has is the energy that you give it, which is why they're trying to get your attention in the first place. It's like a toddler having a temper tantrum. Just ignore it. Tell it to go away. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, I rebuke you. Flee from me. It's as simple as that. Read Malachi. Chapter 1 of Malachi is the Torah. Chapter 2 of Malachi is the prophets. Chapter 3 of Malachi is the Gospels and the epistles. And chapter 4 of Malachi is Revelation. A little microcosm of the Word and the Word made flesh right there in Malachi. In 4 short chapters. I got to get to work. Coffee sermon over. I'll see y'all when I see you.